Greetings, Quester, and welcome to the Meddlesome Meeples. Grab an ale, sheathe your axe, and join us fireside. Here's your host, Matt Williams, with Richard and Heather.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Meddlesome Meeples. I'm Matt.
I'm Richard.
I'm Heather.
I'm Carolyn.
Yay!
You may not have heard that. Heather's a little bit poorly today, aren't you?
I tried.
That's why she's got a speaker for her.
I'm going to sound really cool.
So we've got Richard's sister Carolyn with us visiting today.
Yay!
And we're going to be talking about a couple of board games today, Richard.
Yes, we are going to talk about Firefly Adventures, Brigands and Browncoats, and also we are going to talk about The Thing.
Indeed, The Thing from Another World.
Infection at Outpost 31.
Yep. Based, of course, on the film by John Carpenter, which was based on a book by John W. Campbell.
That's the whole history of that.
When Heather's able to talk, she'll be joining me for the Bard's Corner.
Don't make me talk. What are you going to be doing? Being quiet.
Nice.
It's because she's been singing along to all the albums we've been reviewing this week. So we're going to be talking about new albums out by James Christian and Issa, as well as Frontline, and there'll be some other music news as well coming up. And we've got Tome Talk.
Yes, where you're going to be telling us about The Final Empire.
Yep, by Brandon Sanderson. So, what's everyone been doing this week?
I've been playing board games with Carolyn quite a lot because she's visited with her husband and they both like playing games, and so that's been pretty good. Normally I just play when I come over here, like different board games, but I've been able to do that at home as well.
Every single day.
Every single day. It's been really good. We did Warrior Nights yesterday.
Warrior Nights is a good game.
Yeah,
It
that
was
was a
brilliant.
really good game. We've been playing that geisha game you gave us.
Hanamikoji.
It's so polite. You have to just offer the cards to the other player and see what they want.
Yeah. And then you just have the others, you're like, okay, I'll just use these.
Just with your friends.
There's great politeness in that game.
Yeah, that's a nice game.
It's a little game for two players.
So normally it's like non-board game stuff I've been doing in the week, but it's like been kind of Quest Report, Meddlesome Meeples type stuff the entire week this time.
Yeah.
So.
Which just sounds
No
fun.
rest.
Yeah, it's been nice.
But did you video it? None of it was recorded?
No, I'm just gonna
It was just
tell
your
you now.
life was a podcast.
Well, yeah, I should do a constant podcast, really.
People would want to see.
If that's what the people want.
What, one of those GoPros on your forehead? Just
As long as no one's watching it at the time and see
never
what
played
cards I've
poker.
got.
It would be it would be
A day in the life
invaluable.
of Richard.
It would be invaluable to the inevitable psychologist report.
Yeah, for like a black box type thing.
Yeah. This is the day when Richard spiraled into madness. We can place it. It was 12:03.
Yeah, pinpoint the moment when I snap.
It's got weird fast.
That's what they'll say.
So yeah. We've been binge watching Designated Survivor, haven't we?
Yes, that's very good.
It's without giving too many spoilers, it's a TV series starring Kiefer Sutherland and Maggie Q. The premise is that right at the beginning of the show, the entire US government have gathered for the State of the Union address and they get wiped out by a terrorist plot. So Kiefer Sutherland is the designated survivor. He's got to rebuild the government while Maggie Q is an FBI agent tracking down the conspirators.
And he's a very upstanding guy, isn't he?
He is.
I've seen some
Yeah,
episodes
I
of
like
that.
it.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is the president that we deserve. Well,
Yeah.
they deserve.
They deserve.
Actually, no, they don't deserve him.
Save it for the off-camera bit.
But it was a very good show, very compelling, really addictive. We binge-watched the first season very quickly, didn't we?
Oh, you're on the
Yes.
second season?
We've started
Yeah.
season 2.
Okay. I'm on the second season.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How far in?
Like halfway through, and then I decided to like switch it to Portuguese, and then suddenly it became difficult to understand.
Really? In Portuguese?
Yeah. Who'd have thought it? So I think I have to go back and watch it from the beginning.
It's how it was meant to be watched.
Oh yeah, essentially.
In fairness, Aaron Shaw would probably have still understood it. Yeah. So,
Awesome.
there we are.
Clang.
So that's what we've been doing. Definitely check out that show. And it's time to get on with the rest of the show. On this week, we're going to be talking about The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. And we actually have a guest with us this week. We have upgraded our level.
Yep. Normally
Because-
we just have one.
2 levels are better than 1. So,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
there we are. So Carolyn's joining us for this week. You joined us to play The Thing as well, didn't you?
Yeah, it was great.
So just to give us an idea of the kind of game The Thing is obviously based on John Carpenter's 1982 film The Thing, which is in turn based on the 1930s novella by John Campbell, Who Goes There?
You can see in a Tome Talk.
Which, yes, you can find all about in a Tome Talk from Tome Talk Season 1. We are now on Season 2. And
Forget Season 1.
yeah.
It's gone.
And in this game, it's a game of bluffing, deduction, dice rolling, hand management. It's a cooperative game with a very serious traitor element. And the main theme of the game is trying to work out who indeed is the Thing, the human imitation. Now, in the film, you've got the researchers who are being slowly killed off and assimilated by the alien creature, and that basically is the theme for the game as well, isn't it, Richard?
It does feel like being a team, like you're trapped in that outpost, because there's only certain rooms you can go to. You assign a captain each round. Well, it kind of rotates, doesn't it? Like who's going to be the captain, and they're the ones that make the decisions. But then other people can choose how they cooperate, and if you are secretly the Thing, you cooperate not very much, but have to try and make it look like you are.
I do like the way you have to choose your team, because it gives you a good idea of trying to figure out what everyone else is thinking.
Yeah.
Instead of just waiting for people to slip up a bit.
Yeah, because you don't have to take everybody with you to the room that you go into.
Yeah.
So it's a good element.
So, at the beginning of each player's turn, because each player's going to have a chance to be the captain, which means you get to draw a mission card and decide that the team that you're going to take with you to a room. Then you're going to end up having a round where everyone has to put in a card, don't they?
Yeah.
Which is very similar if you've played a game like Battlestar Galactica. Very similar mechanic where you're putting in a card face down, someone's going to shuffle draw them. You're going to be looking for certain types of cards though. Sometimes it's going to be you want ones that give you exact amount of dice, or exact kind of equipment.
Somewhere it's got to be a knife, or something like that, or a petri dish.
But you might find out that there's a sabotage card in there,
and they are bright red. It's easy.
They're easy to spot, and they may completely derail. Some of them will automatically fail that investigation or that battle. Others will give you an opportunity to pass that and move on, but at a heavy price. And you're going to be looking to try and work out who's been putting these sabotage cards in and messing up your team.
One thing I do like about this game is it's not necessarily the best method for the Thing just to sabotage.
No.
You can play this completely other method where you just really, really, really cooperate. You just hope no one
suspects you.
That's what I tried to do when I was the Thing. I was trying to get rid of a lot of my sabotage cards. Yeah.
Because during the game, there's several ways. The humans basically need to clear the 3 different sections of the base and then escape in the helicopter. Now, the Thing can win by destroying the base, by sneaking on board the helicopter, or by basically assimilating
everybody. So
moving the assimilation track up, can't you?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, either base destroyed, assimilation track up. That's it. And or get on the helicopter, which is what I was trying to do. The second game we did, I was the Thing, and I realised like what we were doing about. I was trying not to do any sabotaging or anything like that. At a certain point, it did kind of become obvious, just from process of elimination more than anything, and also little clues in what I'd been saying and how vague I'd been about certain things during the game.
Maybe I'm trying to help you.
That I was the Thing. Yeah. So I think at a certain point I should have abandoned my trying to get on the helicopter, because I just really wanted to do that. But I could have started sabotaging.
I think it would have worked, but we knew that. Well, some of us knew that one person who wasn't obvious, we just know that they would have played it very straight. So we knew they weren't double bluffing.
Yes.
So if we were playing with someone else, I think you would have got on the helicopter.
So it's like everybody. Compared to everybody else, I was.
I was suspicious of you because I thought you were being too helpful. You were being.
Okay, well, and next time we play a cooperative game,
about their lives.
there will be
I thought this is a lot more helpful than Richard would normally be. What's he trying to hide here? Why has he got a guilty conscience?
We get ready for a lack of cooperation and everything, and in podcasting as well.
Yes, indeed.
I'm going to stop talking about the right game.
You're going to pause this and you're going to smash that.
Yeah.
Richard's going to spend the rest of the time talking about Battlestar Galactica.
Well, it's similar.
What did you think about that, Carolyn? Did you think it... Because you've played Battlestar Galactica with us a few times as well. What did you think about the similarities, differences in the way the game felt to Battlestar Galactica?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I love Battlestar Galactica. But I think this, in a way, is a better game because I have never seen the thing. I had no idea what it was. And in Battlestar, I've had trouble playing that with people who don't know the show.
Yeah.
Right.
But this, it was very easy to understand what was going on. And also, it's not got as many complications. Like Battlestar, you've got all the special abilities.
Yeah.
Whereas with Battlestar, when people are playing it for the first time, you can spend all your time just reading all the special abilities.
Because that happened to us quite recently, didn't it?
It did. You're almost better just to forget about that. But with the thing, that just won't be a problem.
Yeah, it's more streamlined, isn't
Yeah,
it?
you can just play.
I felt it was more streamlined. I thought it would definitely be easier to play with someone who wasn't familiar with either the theme or games in and of, themselves, because there wasn't so many, as you say, so many different things to think about. It was just, right, well, this is my turn, we're going to this room, we're all looking for this kind of cards, and you can spend more time maybe playing off the board in the sense of thinking, right, who do I think's going to be the thing?
Yeah.
If you're a human.
Yeah, and there's a lot more actual teamwork in it as well, which I think you just said. So,
yeah, I think as well it's a not just simpler, but it's a quicker game to play, isn't it? I mean, we were able to play a couple of games of this in the evening, whereas usually it would take us probably the whole evening just to play the one version of Battlestar Galactica with the expansions. And
It wasn't quick because we lost either.
No.
The humans
Yeah.
won, so yeah.
Actually, yeah, in Battlestar, you just know if you're a human, you're going to lose, and that's it.
It's very
This
difficult
guy
for the
might.
humans to win in Galactica.
like the
With
program.
this, with this, it does feel like you've got more of a fighting chance. Whichever side you are, you've got more of a fighting chance, because in Galactica as well, when someone becomes a Cylon, they're revealed. They basically they leave the ship and they start doing things for the Cylons. Whereas with this, once you're revealed, we are going to try or once we suspect who you are, we're going to try and tie you up. We're going to try and torture you with a flamethrower.
Well, yeah, you flamethrowed me.
Yes, I
Yes.
did. I enjoyed
I'm
that.
not over that.
No, but you
Even though
were the thing.
I say that.
Yeah.
At the beginning of every game, you're going to randomly deal the blood sample cards, and now we've been playing it 5 players, so there was one imitation thing within that group of 5 players. During at different times in the game, you're going to have the opportunity to shuffle and deal out another 5 cards. Now, in the first time we played it, both times the imitation got handed out to Carolyn.
Which
In the
is a
s-
thing that can happen, it's rare.
In the other games we played, we ended up with 2 different imitations. And at the end of the game, once you've cleared the base and it's time to get on the helicopter, you have to have a vote, don't you, as to who's going to be the final captain, and the final captain will decide who goes on the helicopter. So understandably, you don't want the final captain to turn out to be an imitation.
And at that point, you've done better than Kurt Russell did in the film.
Yeah.
There's still a helicopter.
Have that on a t-shirt.
Good one.
What did you think about that part of the game, Carolyn? Because obviously you've got the voting, someone has to nominate a player, you all vote. How did you think that went? What did you think of that mechanic?
Oh, I loved it. It was not much to say, really.
Yeah.
I loved it. Do we mention what happened to your poor wife in the first game?
We can
That
do.
is too, a lot of it is about just public consensus.
Yeah.
And in the first game, it was very much everyone thought she was the thing.
I did keep tying her up because we thought she was the thing.
Yeah.
And
Spent a lot of time in the rec room not being able to do anything because
yeah.
Yeah.
under suspicion.
If you during the game, you're going to acquire rope, and if you think somebody is the thing, then you can play that to tie them up. Generally, the best time to do that is when it's their turn to be the captain, because then they've got less chance to mess things up. So we all thought that was Heather, and it turned out obviously later it was Carolyn. But in the meantime, we tied Heather up a few times and left her in the rec room while we took the thing with us on missions.
But it's quite fun because you end up spending a lot more time than you do in Battlestar just arguing with your friends, which is always a fun thing to do.
Yeah,
That's why we have board games, isn't it?
When it turned out she wasn't the thing, I didn't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
She was acting a lot like the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she'd actually figured it out. Every time you accused her, she just looked hurt.
Yeah.
She was the only one who knew the truth.
I think she would have probably, if she didn't realise how much we all thought she was the thing, she would have tried to get people to think it was you. And I'm not entirely sure why I suddenly thought, when I had my flamethrower and I was going to use it, I came this close to accidentally torching Heather.
That would have been awful.
And we're not talking about the game.
Yeah. but then at the last minute, I can't remember why, but I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, why not torch Carolyn?
Yeah, why not?
And it turned out to be the right call. And that was another way that the humans were able to win, as well as getting off the chopper. If you manage to eliminate all of the assimilated things, then you win that way. You check the deck, and if there's no more blood samples, you've killed them.
Yeah.
And that worked. We won the first game that way. Second game, we were getting on the chopper, and that was quite interesting because Carolyn was the only person that knew for definite at that point that I was human.
I knew as well because I was the thing.
Well, yeah.
I was constantly accusing you. But...
She was the only other human that knew I was human. I mean, obviously that's been a debate for years, hasn't it? Yeah.
Because that was I quite enjoyed that because in all the years of friendship, and it's been a while now, this is the first time we've ever played together on a game. The first time ever. It's always just ganging up.
We're usually on different sides, aren't you? If you're the Cylon, I'm a human. If I'm the Cylon, you're a human. So it was the first time we were actually cooperating. You were the only person in that game I actually trusted.
I know, and I only got to find that out because I was being so like, hey, you're an alien. Everyone should tie you up all the time, and you had to prove it.
I showed you my blood sample card, and you were shocked.
Yeah, felt weird.
But not was that because I was playing the game badly, or you were just suspicious of me on general principles?
It's just, even though I know logically your personality does not affect which card you pick up, it's just because it was you, I thought he is going to betray us all. Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't have been the first time.
So you think that it's normally bad playing with me, but then I bring my sister, and she treats you even worse than it did.
Yeah, but I've known her for longer than I've known you, so it's okay.
I suppose, she knows you better.
Yeah. So that was really fun, actually, as I got to be the last captain. Everyone voted on who they wanted to be the final captain, and
I voted against you.
You voted against me. Interestingly enough, the other thing, which was Heather in the second game, voted against me. It was just you and Sam voted for me.
We kind of planned it with a look, like, let's both vote against Matt.
Yeah. So those two knew who... but then I managed to take my, as you put it, yes men onto the helicopter with me.
I complained about that, didn't I? It was all political.
Yeah, we need to teach you how to suck up. Just say yes to everything.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that's a nice rule.
Bad things to do.
So, how do you both feel about this game? Is this a game you would recommend?
Oh, definitely. I would. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because although it's like along horror themes, it's not actually like dead gruesome or anything, is it?
No,
it's not like when we do the alien legendary encounters and you get a strike and it's like splat.
Yeah.
This one, it's more. It's just about the tension of who is who. So yeah.
It's brilliant for that.
Yeah, definitely recommend this one.
I think,
and I like the way that though you can flamethrower people, but there's nothing like that bad you can do except for the flamethrower thing. So, like, even if you played it with slightly sensitive people, you could just have a like good game and you'll all be friends after.
Yeah, with it, cooperative games are good for that because we're mostly working all together, and like even if somebody doesn't quite know the rules, it's quite okay to help them with it because we're all meant to be working together for this as well.
What did you both think about the components for this game? The component quality?
They were kind of fine for what they were. It's not proper miniatures or anything, is it?
No,
They're just kind of
it's quite basic. I
Mm.
mean, it was nice for what it was, and I liked the look of the board, and the dice were nice.
Oh, the dice were great. They're like ice.
Yeah.
They were cool.
They were really
I thought
good.
it'd be cool if the pieces were like a bit metallic or something, but no, they were fine.
They did the job. I mean, arguably, I would say that Battlestar Galactica is probably better produced component-wise, but this is a game I'd rather get this out than Battlestar Galactica now.
Well, yeah, because you don't have to spend an entire evening doing it.
Yeah, it's easier to explain and teach to people. As you said, you don't need to know the
people
theme.
who aren't used to it, with Battlestar Galactica, all the photos are great if you know the show.
Yeah.
They're awesome, but people really worry about who is who
Yeah.
if they don't know the game.
What did you think about the actual captain powers? Because the captain on his turn gets to use one of two abilities if he's fulfilled the mission requirements. Now, what that means is that each character has basically a colour which denotes whether they're science or support staff sort of thing. So you use green, blue.
The yellow one was like command in a way. Wasn't it?
And if you fulfil the requirements, which might be you need to take a green class and a blue class, then you get to use your captain power, which can be quite good. And when you look through there's 4 for each category, but it's always going to be 2 of them are the same captain powers, so it's just you've not got a huge amount of variety in those choices. But
that's good, because then
you're not spending ages trying to work out which one do I want to be. That was the other thing. Now, I did think if you were able to eliminate a player too early on, and it turned out they were human, that person's probably not going to have a great evening.
No.
I'm not a huge fan generally in games where you can eliminate a player, but I do like the fact, on the other hand, that you can do that, because I say in Battlestar Galactica, the Cylon's just going to keep wrecking you all evening. Yeah. It's nice to take somebody out of the equation if they're working against you.
And if you do kill someone with Callie's ability, then they get to come back as another character. So the actual player can still be in the game.
Yeah. But all in all, thoroughly enjoyed this one. Highly recommend it. Incidentally, with the deluxe version, there was 1,982 produced. The reason for that, if you're wondering why that strange number, is because the film was released in 1982. And of course, if we've said anything here that you don't like, but you like the original theme, Who Goes There was going to be coming out soon, which was made and produced on Kickstarter, and that's also based on the same novella that this game and film was based on. So there you are.
Nice.
Options, people. Options.
There's plenty of thing out there for everybody.
There is. Thank you for joining us, Carolyn.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, nice.
It's been good.
And stay meddlesome, Carolyn, as well as everybody else.
I will.
You didn't say it.
Sorry, that's because I'm not really Matt.
Oh no! Get the flamethrower.
Well, that was fun. Let's carry on with the show. The Meeples Alive!
Welcome to the Quest Report. We are going to talk about Firefly Adventures, Brigands and Browncoats, which is kind of a skirmish game, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's, I mean, when you look at it, the artwork on it and everything, and a lot of the symbols are basically ripped straight from the other Firefly game, which is produced also by Gale Force 9.
It makes it easier because it's incredibly similar.
You already know half of what you need to know when you're looking at things with
It's like the same thing but on the ground.
Yeah.
Doing an actual mission.
If you've played the original the other Firefly game,
which is amazing,
which is a pick up and carry type game,
then it is.
You already know what the aesthetic of this is going to be like, and you probably know a fair bit about the universe. So that's kind of like you're flying around in your ship doing your jobs. This is where you're actually doing the jobs. This is you're on the ground doing your little missions.
Yeah.
You've got your characters
aiming to misbehave,
being big damn heroes. Now
half the time
you're big damn heroes. The other time you're
acting casual. Yeah.
So there's 5 characters you can play on in this. You can play as Mal, you can play as Zoe, Kaylee, Wash, or Jane. As we say, this is a miniatures-based skirmish mission type scenarios,
which I wasn't looking forward to so much because I'm not too keen on this type of game. But I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting in that it's cooperative. There isn't any kind of traitor element. This is a straight-out cooperative game.
It's not meant to be a traitor element. If there is, then you're doing it wrong.
Sometimes you have to keep an eye on Jane.
Yeah.
You do have to keep an eye on Jane.
He just gets over enthusiastic.
But in this, you've got like a map that you'll be setting up based on what it says in the book, and in the you get like scenario cards for each mission.
You get like a mission sheet that tells you how to set it up.
And what your basic objective is, you'll have a marker on there. Now, to get to that, you may have to sneak around the board, unlock certain rooms to get into certain places, so that you can later on get into your main objective.
That was really fun.
That was quite fun. And one of the things that is quite neat about this is that you do have the scenery. So you've got like rooms and containers and things that are based.
Yes.
The
little boxes in the game to like hold all the little miniatures and tokens and stuff. They are all the rooms. You put them out.
And you get those out and you set them on
on
the map.
Show everybody who's watching on YouTube. We'll just have to describe it to the people listening as a podcast, but they
And
look
these are
like little storage
painted and decorated up, aren't they?
containers.
And they're marked with a number so that you know when you're looking at the scenario sheet which one you've got to go where, how you lay them out.
Yeah, and this box itself is the biggest one. So the box it all comes in, around the outside it's coloured in like walls.
Looks like a great big hanger, doesn't it, from the
It does,
outside?
yeah, and you can use that as a massive building.
And you have, as I say, you've got your character sheets, which will have two sides. One is your casual side, and the other side is heroic. Now, when you are casual, you've got a different set of skills to the ones when you're acting heroic.
And bad guys aren't going to shoot you.
Yeah, because they're going to shoot you if you're heroic. And if you're doing something in front of them that you shouldn't be doing, then you have to go heroic, don't you?
Yeah, you can flip to heroic whenever you want, but to act casual, you need to actually use a bit of time, part of your turn, to actually calm down and start being casual again.
You basically got to get out of sight, not be bleeding, not be trying to break into something.
You can't look casual when you're bleeding
everywhere. Can't be
everywhere.
toting a rifle or something like that. You've got to be acting casual. So that is interesting. What's interesting as well in this is the mechanic of time. As you've got a time track, everyone's got a little token that goes along the time track, and you've got a finite amount of time to complete your mission and get out. And everything you do is going to use up a portion of time. Now, you can, on both sides, as you can see if you look at the heroic cards, both of them are a different set of skills, different amounts of time. Some of them will allow you different kind of movement speeds as well based on the amount of time. So, for example, Zoe, she's got on each side of her skill, she's got a movement ability. She can move 3 spaces for 2 time when she's casual, or when she's heroic, she can move 2 spaces for 1 time, which actually is more better in a lot of situations. Isn't it?
So she gets to move less far, but then she gets another turn sooner. So yeah, that's pretty good.
And basically, every time you spend time, you move your marker up, and once you've taken 2 actions, that stops, and the next person to have a go is whoever's the furthest down on that track. So it's possible to leapfrog each other all the time.
That's what happens most of the time.
Yeah, and then you'll find out, actually, if I do this, I'll end up being able to have maybe another turn before somebody else gets a turn.
You can have 2 turns in a row if you don't use much time.
Yeah, and that is another mechanic that's interesting, because you're trying to think about how you're best using your time. Skill combat-wise, combat in the game is predominant, isn't it? The scenarios we've played, there's been a lot of combat as we've gone around. It's not all combat, because we've also been using our skills to, say, crack computers and hack things.
Yeah, but what happens is that at a certain point in the mission, something unexpected will happen, and that involves rolling a die to find out what that thing is going to be. And for us, it just happened to be that it was kind of a bad roll, and it made it very combat heavy from that point on, because everybody was going to be attacking us, but it ended up being better for us in the long run.
We got a ton of cash out of that mission.
Yeah, because it was going to award us like $100, I think it was.
I think we were going to get originally $2,000. I think we were meant to get if we completed the standard mission we were doing, but because it went wrong and it basically turned it into a free for all, we walked away with something like nearly $7,000. So it worked out a lot more lucrative to take out guards and things like that. So that was fun. But the combat itself is very simple. You roll a die. Someone rolls a die for the person you're in combat with.
And this is brawling.
And this is a brawl. And you basically just see who's got the higher die roll, modified by your skill in an area. So
which are the same as the other game.
Yeah. So Zoe's combat skill's 3. She rolls a dice and adds that number to her 3. That's her result. If it's higher than their opponent, she wins, the opponent takes a wound.
But Kaylee doesn't have any of them, so it becomes difficult. But
Kaylee's not a fighter.
Ones. Yeah.
But her, when she's doing tests for mechanic skills, and that's going to go the same way.
So we do specialise, which is cool.
Mel has a negotiation skill, and I imagine at some point there'll be an expansion where we can get Inara, Simon, River.
It looks like there was room for them in the missions.
Because there is opportunities to do like that negotiation skill, and if they go, these follow very similar sort of skill layouts as the characters in the game, in the other game. Yes. And Inara was the one with all 3 negotiation skills. So there is definitely room for Inara in this. I would like to see an Inara in an expansion.
I would also like to see another.
And now, the way the missions go, they are individual scenarios. There is a campaign in this, but it's very loose, isn't it? It's basically you string 3 different scenarios together, and if at the end of that you and your crew have accumulated $10,000, you've won that, or 10,000 credits, then you've won the campaign.
Yeah, and you need to pay 500 in between to keep your ship flying.
Or and you need to get intel for your next mission,
An intel, yeah. Which we did get, didn't we? So we don't have to pay for our next one. Yeah, that's cool.
So there is a campaign there, but it's very loose. It's only we're trying to accumulate this over this amount of time. It's not, this story leads to the next. But then if you're a fan of Firefly, then that's kind of the sort of crazy things that they're doing.
It's not like we've got Starfleet telling them what to do.
They are literally doing their jobs to get paid, keep the ship flying, and make some credits. And that's basically the way that the campaign goes together. I say it's loose, but it is fun. Now, you're not a big fan of these sort of skirmish games ordinarily, are you?
No.
But you enjoyed this one.
Well, there's more elements than normal. It wasn't just combat, although we said it was combat heavy.
Yeah.
Like Kaylee was like hacking in that room, wasn't she? And Zoe was kind of going around the outside, acting casual. But she is the only one of our characters that had the gun, wasn't she, at that time? And Heather was controlling her. And it felt like we were acting as a team, and it felt like what we were doing mattered because we were trying to leave this job with enough money to get us towards our 10,000 goal.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel exactly like just a skirmish.
No. I mean, one of the things in a lot of skirmish games that I think puts people off is things like line of sight. Especially if you're going into sort of like your war game territory. So things like Warhammer 40k, line of sight is critical.
Unless you're Ryan's Tyranids.
In which case,
anything
you're going to just wipe everything. But line of sight is something that puts a lot of people off, I think, because it's trying to think, we're going to have to get a ruler out, measure distances and things. In this, it's very, very simple to work out. I mean, the board isn't big.
No.
It's big. It's as big as it needs to be.
Yeah,
it's as big as it needs to be. But it's not big. And that line of sight is very simple to work out, can this guard or this goon see Zoe? Can she see Wash? It's all very straightforward. The combat, again, is very easy. But everything about this mechanically felt very easy, but it was still fun to play.
It was. Well, it was easy to learn, but it still felt a bit difficult to actually do the mission. Because
you're trying to work out, and also because everyone's got different skills and abilities, it's not like we can all do this particular set, so it doesn't matter who's in which part. We're trying to work out where we're all going to enter the board, which part of the mission we're all going to tackle.
Yes. And this particular mission, we had to all be separate from each other, didn't we, if we were going to act casual. So I think that helped really because we were all covering different areas.
Yeah.
And there's something else I was going to say about the casual. Yeah, you had different miniatures for it, didn't you?
So you've got one for your heroic stance and one for your casual stance.
Yeah.
And randomly a naked Mal on a rock.
I think, that's for a specific scenario, which thankfully we didn't
That's
do.
for the quest report after dark, isn't it?
yeah. The special one that's encrypted. I don't know. So we had you have 2 miniatures for each of your characters anyway, and you get to switch between them. One thing that is different to the other game, you have little serenities on the dice for the 6, and that's when the dice explodes. But we also have a disgruntled face on the 1, and if you ever get that, then it just means a complete failure.
Yeah, it's an instant failure.
Unless you have a serenity on one of the other dice that you rolled,
which cancels it out.
It cancels it out. So it's kind of a bit of a two-edged thing with the dice, and it's pretty cool when a goon is shooting at you and they rolled a disgruntled, and then you can just you feel a lot. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the other things. In a lot of games, when combat ensues, obviously you can attack the other person on your turn, and the other person's just defending against it. In this as well, whenever you engage in combat, it's very easy to take a wound yourself. So you have to kind of, even though there's times where it's combat heavy, you kind of have to work out exactly when to engage in that combat.
Yes.
Which characters are going to engage in that combat, because I say you can't bring Kaylee into the melee. Unless, of course, you give her, maybe the right equipment possibly will allow her to. But
we're not that rich yet,
we're
but
not
we
that-
are now.
We are now, but we weren't before. So it's very much thinking how best can we use these characters, and that makes it feel more like you are the team out on a mission rather than just because in some games you can just take, for example, Mansions of Madness, which is a game we love with miniatures. You're moving around, everyone's got the same kind of actions that they can choose, but there are differences based on your stats and your gear. Whereas in this, that's not the case. Everyone's got a unique set of abilities.
They're so
it's
different to each other.
Working out
yeah.
which ones are going to be best to tackle which problems is part of what makes the game fun.
Yeah.
And then trying to work out again, right, if I do this action, that goon's going to get to go next, which means I've got to then take this into account. And again, that's another thing that makes the game interesting.
But it's if you know Firefly anyway, and chances are that if you've got this game, then you do. It's so easy to know which character should do what. So you're never going to have Jane hacking into stuff or Kaylee fighting. It's you automatically know who you want to do which thing, and so it's not like there's loads of mechanics to learn with that.
Mechanically, I say it's very simple. Do you feel that somebody who didn't know the theme would enjoy this game?
I think they would quite quickly get into the idea of like space cowboys and stuff. It's quite an easy thing to like. So I think they would find it a little bit more difficult maybe, but I think they would enjoy it, being part of a team and pulling off a heist. It's just a very interesting thing to get to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I say mechanically is easy to learn, easy to teach. We had it out and going within a few minutes, didn't we?
Yeah, I took this one home, didn't I, and read the rules, and then I briefly explained it to you and Heather, and then we just played it. Yeah, it was great. It was easy. Yeah.
So, this one, are you recommending this one, Richard?
Definitely, yes, I am recommending it.
Me too. It's not a particularly deep game, but it is a fun game, and there is plenty to think about when you're taking your actions and how you're going to play your style. So I am totally going to recommend this one, whether or not you are a fan of Firefly. I think this is worth checking out.
Definitely. And you should be a fan of Firefly.
Okay. And remember, aim to misbehave.
I don't know who you are, but we're the Meddlesome Meeples, and it's time to talk about books. A very particular set of books.
And this week, Matt is going to be telling us about The Final Empire, which is a book by Brandon Sanderson.
That's correct. Now, this book is sometimes referred to as Mistborn. It's sometimes referred to as The Final Empire. Its full title is Mistborn the Final Empire. It's the first book of the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson. Now, this was released back in 2006 via Tor Books, and for those who perhaps familiar with some of our other term talks, remember we talked about The Wheel of Time, one of our earlier term talks by Robert Jordan. Brandon Sanderson is the writer that was brought in to finish The Wheel of Time after Robert Jordan unfortunately passed away.
Right, okay. So
Bob,
he has done some Wheel of Time as well.
Yeah, so a name familiar to many. He's won quite a number of awards for his various books. Now, this one is a fantasy series. It's set in a dystopian world
I like that.
of myths and abilities and brown plants, and it's quite an interesting world that he's built here. Now, just a little bit of setting, so I'm going to be very careful as usual not to give any spoilers. Now, 1,000 years prior to the events in this book, there was a hero which fought some danger, some terror called the Deepness. Now, we don't know much about the Deepness, and this is something that you'll find as you go through the book. It's just a very little references throughout the entire series. However, this hero then adopted the title Lord Ruler and forged what he called the Final Empire. He basically remade the world in his own image. Now, he's still alive 1,000 years on. He's still the absolute ruler of the Final Empire.
Not rotting on his throne or anything.
No.
Okay.
And what's interesting as well is that the nobility of the Final Empire is actually the descendants of those who helped him, his friends, from back when he became this powerful being.
Okay. Yeah.
So he sort of kept them and their descendants close, and he gave them the ability, which was basically a genetic trait then passed on from his friends down through his lines, through their lines, through the nobility, of allomancy.
Okay.
Now, have you heard of allomancy before, or allomantic powers?
Not really. Sounds something to do. Just the sound of it sounds a bit like alchemy with elements. But,
yes.
Okay.
Very, very good.
Okay.
Basically, allomancers ingest a metal or shards of metal, and then from that they do what they call burn the metal, which is they consume it within them to enable them to access an allomantic power.
Right.
So allomancers typically would have access to a single one of the 16 allomantic powers. So for example, someone might be able to burn pewter and become incredibly strong. It enhances their physical abilities, their physical strength. Some can burn to either push or pull on people's emotions. Some can speed up or slow down time. There's a lot of different abilities.
So is this with 16 different types of metal?
16 different types of metal. Each one gives it the allomancer a unique ability. Now, there are also ones called Mistborns, which is like a rare subset of those allomancers. Now, a Mistborn can burn all 16 types of metal and gain access to all 16 powers.
He's the all-in-one.
So they are the Mistborn.
Okay. Now we know why it's called that.
Now we know why it's called Mistborn. Now, in the current setting, obviously you've got the fabulously wealthy nobility, and then you've got the other group called the Scar, who are basically a slave class of people, peasant class of people, very brutally treated, and you get that very early on from the books. The first pages introduce you to a group of Scar, and you learn very quickly the kind of life that they've been forced to lead by the Final Empire.
It makes me mad.
It does. It really riles you up. But we're also introduced to one of the book's two main characters at that point, called Kelsier. The first one is called Kelsier. Now, he's a half-Scar thief.
Half-Scar.
Who's kind of
He's
not quite a legend, but he's
some money.
he's not got some money at this point.
Okay.
He, as you learn, was basically prior to the setting of the book, about 3 years before, I think, if memory serves. He was sent to these mines that are controlled by the Lord Ruler, and I think his wife's been killed. He has been very brutally scarred, and people recognise him and they know who he is, not by his name but by his reputation because of the scars.
Right.
Because he's the only one that's survived these mines.
So he is a Scar who gets recognised by his
scars.
That is pretty bad. Yeah. Even though he's only a half Scar.
Yeah. But basically, although these allomantic powers are passed on through the genes of the nobility, some of the nobility have been naughty with their Scar slaves at times, which is why there are occasional ones like Kelsier who have those allomantic powers.
Right, so the Scar got that right.
Yeah. So, and we find out early on that he really wants to free his people.
Okay, he likes his people.
He likes his people, and he doesn't like the way that the Empire treats his people. Okay. And he's kind of known as a bit of a trouble causer who goes from place to place, but he's actually planning a rebellion against the Empire. Now, this all sounds pretty fairly standard in a fantasy setting, doesn't it? There's nothing particularly...
Well, kind of, but it does sound a little bit more... I don't know, there is something different about it. The way you say it's that dystopian. That sounds like a bit of a different element, and the fact that it's to do with ingesting the metals, that's a little bit of a different mechanic.
This is the thing that, for me, sets this apart from, having a fantasy book with a wizard that comes along and casts a fireball or something like that. This is
Dragon fireworks.
Yeah. This is something that's a lot more carefully thought out, kind of like I said with the Wheel of Time, the abilities in there. This is a system that's a lot more carefully worked out on how these powers correlate to one another.
But there has to be constraints and a cost, otherwise there's no threat or anything. So
that's right, and he does that very well. Now, there was, I think it was the Washington Post, if memory serves, said that the powers kind of felt like something from a video game, like a cheat. You press XXY to get this power sort of thing. But actually, I thought it was
metal.
it kind of sets it apart from a lot of the other ones. And
actually, I was thinking it sounds like a good game. Board game. I was thinking, but
there has been a couple of games. There is a board game for the Mistborn. I believe there was also a card or a dice game, something smaller.
Did you get banned for people eating mercury while playing?
And the rights have been opted for a film as well, and I think there's a screenwriter been assigned to develop Mistborn into a film. Okay. But yeah, so we've got Kelsier, who's one of the main characters. The other main character we meet early on is called Vin.
Okay.
Now, she doesn't realise that she has these... Well, she knows she has abilities, but she doesn't quite know what those abilities are or how they got.
She hasn't eaten the right metal yet.
Yeah, and she knows that she can sort of slightly affect people's emotions. She thinks it's just a sort of luck type thing, that she can maybe get people to trust her that wouldn't ordinarily be able to. She doesn't realise that she can pull and push on people's emotions.
Wow.
But Kelsier and
she's an attractive woman.
Yeah, she's a street urchin.
Oh, is she?
She's a street urchin. And Kelsier and his crew meet Vin, realise what she's actually capable of, and Kelsier and his team start to train her in the use of her different abilities.
Yeah.
But Kelsey's got this plan to bring down the Final Empire. You see, these 16 normal metals that people use, as I say, they have like little shavings of the metal in like a liquid solution.
I wondered
and
what they did to get it.
Yeah, they'll drink like a little vial of something with the shavings of this metal, and they can use it.
It's like that whiskey with gold in it.
Yeah, and there's two other kinds of metal, not of the normal 16. One of them is called, I think it's pronounced atium, and the Lord Ruler's basically hoarded all this for himself. But
I take it
the economy largely depends on this metal.
Right.
And Kelsier believes that if him and his crew can pull off a heist and steal this, then they'll be able to bring the economy of the Final Empire down, and that'll lead to a Scar uprising.
Yeah, so that's the general idea.
That's the general idea.
So
Finn ends up being used as a bit of a spy on the nobility.
Kind of a fantasy heist book.
Yeah. Vin ends up being used to spy on the nobility and infiltrate the nobility.
Okay.
There is a romantic element to this book.
Well,
as
I assume there would be.
Not between Kelsier and Vin, I'd like to say.
You'd like to say, but you can't.
Well, I you know what? I'm going to say it.
Okay, right.
However, it's not in any way a love story. This is a genuine fantasy story with some unique elements
I don't think we've ever done a love story on Tome Talk.
No, the narrative is quite compelling. The way that the allomancy works is fascinating, and you find out as the story goes on, it's not the only sort of discipline. There's another one, Ferukami, I think it's called, which is more, you have like a kind of metal. It's related to the allomancy. You have a metal, but you can imbue a part of yourself into that metal to store it up for later. So you could store up health, store up time, store up mental energy, things like that. And then there's another kind as well. I think it's called hemalurgy, which is where you're able to not have these powers yourself, but you can transfer powers between different people.
Right.
At a reduced level, so it's quite a well constructed universe. I mean, there is a very good social nature to the story. That's good. I really enjoyed the narrative. I liked seeing the characters develop. Kelsier in particular is quite an interesting character. You do see some development of him, but he's kind of, as you meet him, he's a fully fleshed out character and you're just learning about him. Whereas with Vin, you see a lot more of her developing as a character, as a person, in her abilities, in her confidence.
It becomes less urchiny.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you actually start to think at the beginning that Kelsey really is the core character of the book, and then later on you realise it's actually Vin. That's the main character. But, as I say, I don't want to go into spoilers. There are a number of twists. The book tells you, and what I've told you is where the book leads you initially. But there are twists in the story and the development, and even in the plans and things that come along. So you haven't had any spoilers from listening to this. Everything you've heard, you'd find out very early on in the book as well.
It's in the first 200 pages at least.
Yeah. And actually, I stand by my convictions that this is a good book because I gave you a copy of this book as well.
You did, yes. So I can actually, after listening to you describe it, I can read it for myself, which doesn't often happen with Tome Talk because we're trying to keep ahead of it and have plenty of books to talk about ourselves. So yeah, no doubling up. We can't do it.
Actually, I started listening to the audiobook as well of this recently, and it kind of threw me at first because I didn't realise when I started listening to it that the narrator is the same narrator for the Wheel of Time books. Right. It was produced by the same company. And at first I thought I'd just put the wrong audiobook on.
Yeah,
but
stole all the characters.
This was actually recommended to me by a friend, so I'm sort of passing on that recommendation to everyone else now. Right. It's one that I was recommended to me. I really enjoyed it. The blurb on the back, highly recommended to anyone hungry for a good read from Robin Hobb. I would second that. I highly enjoyed this and recommend it as something quite different to a lot of the run-of-the-mill fantasy books that are out there.
Well, I believe you. That is good. It sounds good.
So, Brandon Sanderson, Mistborn, The Final Empire, first book of the series. There's, I think, 6 or 7 books in the series in total. A couple of different trilogies, plus a couple of other stories. Highly recommend this. And also, if you get chance, check out some of his other work.
The Meddlesome Meeples present music news and reviews in conjunction with Paradise Rock UK.
Hi everyone, welcome to Sports Corner.
First up, Stryper news. Now, Stryper have ran into some controversy with their 10th studio album, entitled Goddamn Evil, with some stores including Walmart refusing to stock the album due to its title. Responding to the controversy, Stryper frontman Michael Sweet said this: "We're disappointed. Stryper has always been about making people think outside the box. Our new album title, Goddamn Evil, is a statement that's needed in our society. We've seen evil rise to new levels, and this title is simply a prayer request, asking God to damn or condemn all the evil around us. Many chains have joined us in making such a statement. Walmart, unfortunately, has not. The odd thing is, of all the chains out there, we assumed Walmart would be one to understand exactly what our point and purpose is. Unfortunately not. Although we respect their decision on what's done is done, it's frustrating to see something that's meant for good get misinterpreted and misunderstood." So regardless of whether you share their religious beliefs or not, the most surprising thing about this is that Stryper are probably the world's foremost Christian rock band. So it's strange that the title of that would be so quickly misunderstood by chains such as Walmart. Moving on, Glasgow rockers Heavy Petting have announced UK tour dates in October 2018. That's going to be with Punky Meadows and Frank Domino of Angel, and they're going to be their first ever UK tour. So Heavy Petting will also be doing extra headline shows in Glasgow and Milton Keynes. Now, one of the UK's pioneers of AOR, Air Race, been around since the 80s. Air Race have just released a new single, Summer Rain, and they've got an album due out in August and a UK tour planned for the 21st to the 30th of September. Okay, moving on to Joe Bonamassa now. After his recent UK tour in March, blues rock guitarist and singer-songwriter Joe Bonamassa is going to be coming back to the UK in October to perform 3 arena concerts. It'll be at the Plymouth Pavilions on October the 11th, the Nottingham Arena on October the 12th, and Bournemouth International Centre on October 13th. Next one is one I'm quite excited about personally. Brian Down is Alive and Dangerous will tour the UK from September 25th to October the 1st to perform the 40th anniversary of Thin Lizzy's iconic live album Live and Dangerous in its entirety. So that's a classic rock album. If you want to see that performed live, that's one for your diaries. Now, Britain's blues rock band King are on a spring tour. They'll be touring from now until June the 2nd, supported alternatively at different gigs by Xander and the Peace Pirates, Steve Hill and Austin Gold. So if you want to check out their website if you want to know more about those dates. Now, we've seen some reissues of Saxon's first, second and third album. They've just announced deluxe reissues of their 4th, 5th and 6th albums. So that's Denim and Leather, Power and Glory and Crusader. They're going to be released on the 25th of May, and there's going to be nearly 30 bonus tracks spread over those 3 releases, so quite a good deal for your money there. Next up, Canadian rockers Thunderbird released their anticipated self-titled 3rd album on Delinquent Records on April the 25th, so that's out right now. The lead singer and producer, Mark LaFranc, said, "The album is like a collection of short stories. I'm singing the songs as different characters or telling their tales. A gallery of rogues from the dark side." So quite an intriguing description there. Next up, Norwegian melodic heavy rock band Big City have released a new lyric video for From This Day. Now that song's taken from their second album, Big City Life, which will be released as a double CD digipack, including their 2013 never released debut album Winter Sleep, on June 22nd via Rock of Angels Records. Big City features members of Scariot, Blood Red Throne, Witham, Marathon and Memoria Avenue. Now, Michael Schenker. Michael Schenker's Eternal Flame have announced the release of their third album, Smoke on the Mountain, on May 18th, and features ex-Malmsteen singers Goran Edman and Mark Bowles. So that's definitely going to be one to check out. Okay, so that's the news covered. Okay, moving on to the album reviews now. First up, Issa, Run With The Pack. Now, this is out now. It was released on April the 20th from Frontiers Music SRL. This is Issa's fifth studio album, collaborating closely with Alessandro Del Vecchio. So we have listened to this quite a bit, haven't we? Her vocals are really good here.
It's very different from the other albums as well.
Yeah, you said that it, we both said actually, that it reminds us very much of a younger Robin Beck, both musically and vocally. The biggest highlight on the album, without a doubt, is the third track of the 11 tracks, called Sacrifice Me. Now this features former Journey vocalist and drummer Dean Castronova, currently with Revolution Saints, which, if you like Journey, you're going to love Revolution Saints. Now this isn't a combination or a duet that I would have anticipated, Issa and Dean Castronova, but their voices do complement each other brilliantly. Really, really do love that track. Other highlights on the album include Run With A Pack, probably the most intense rock song on there, Sound of Yesterday, and the album's closing, Everything to Me, most of which is just Issa's voice and keyboard until the rhythm section kicks in, leading to quite a soaring guitar solo. So several really good standout tracks. Absolutely recommend this one if you like Robin Beck or Robin Brock, Revolution Saints, One Desire, Sunstorm, Eclipse, Wet, House of Lords, Ted Poley or Vega. Definitely one to be checking out. Issa, Run With The Pack. Next up, James Christian, Craving. Now, Craving is the fourth album by House of Lords lead singer James Christian. Christian's built a reputation for himself over the years as both a singer and a songwriter, and his 1994 debut solo album, Rude Awakening, is widely considered to be an AOR classic. Now, Craving sees contributions from a number of people, including Tommy Denander, Jimmy Bell, and Alessandro Del Vecchio. Now, with any of James Christian's albums, the highlight is going to be his voice, and true to form, he sounds fantastic here. Now, the album varies in pace and tone, but I'd say if you're a fan of Christian, or if you're a fan of House of Lords, then you're going to get something with all the typical James Christian trademarks: great vocals, good rhythm, intelligent and often introspective lyrics, while showing a softer side musically than much of his work with House of Lords. Highlights on this album include the catchy Heaven Is a Place in Hell, the heavier Black Wasn't Black, about a hell-raising woman, which happens to be my personal favourite for no obvious reasons, the softer World of Possibility, and Sidewinder, which has a really good rhythm to it. The title track, Craving, is quite enjoyable too. It's not all great all the way through. The closing song, Amen, which is an enjoyable track in itself, doesn't quite feel like it fits in with the rest of the album, nor does the songs Jesus Wept or If There's a God. Now, the mix here could certainly have been better. It means that the album lacks a consistent sound all the way through, but perhaps that's what Christian was aiming for, an album that shows quite a lot of different sides to him. Despite that, the album has some very good solid rock songs, some well played quieter moments of acoustic guitars, and if you're a fan of AOR and or James Christian, then I think this is an album that you're going to enjoy very much. I like it. I'm recommending it to everyone out there. I would say if you like House of Lords, Robin Beck, Night Ranger, Ted Poley, Revolution Saints, Eclipse, Sunstorm, Hardline, then this is an album that you're going to enjoy. As we say, Craving features a number of songwriting contributions, including from Tommy Denander, Chris Pelser, Jimmy Bell, Cliff Magnus, Alessandro Del Vecchio, Richard Hymas, Charlie Mason and Jeff Kent. So there is a lot of different influences that went into creating this album.
Tell us what you think in the comment section below.
So that was episode 2 of the second season. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to everyone for being a part of this episode. We hope you enjoyed that, and be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Stay meddlesome.
Yes, stay Meddlesome. Bye.
Bye.
Farewell, Quester, and thanks for joining us. If you wish to avoid the wrath of Greyskarn the Black, then subscribe to our show before you depart. Our fortress is located at meddlesomemeeples.com, or join our banners by rendezvousing with us at facebook.com/meddlesomemeeples, instagram.com/the Meddlesome Meeples, or follow the flight of the mountain bluebird to @Meddlesome Meeples. Until next time, Quester, farewell, and keep thine axe sharp.